Let's bring in Chief Chris Asoluka, Chief Executive Officer at the Tony Elumelu Foundation, TEF. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
You know, I think every Nigerian, perhaps every African is proud of what the foundation has done. So the natural thing I always like to do, to hear from the horse's mouth, is to see an X-ray and maybe review the impact of this foundation in specific terms, maybe with data as to the impact they've created on young people and the multiplier effects in terms of scale. Talk to us about that.
No, thank you again for having me. The Tony Elumelu Foundation is the leading philanthropy in Africa, empowering young African entrepreneurs across all 54 African countries. We were founded in 2010 by our founder, Mr. Tony Elumelu, and since 2010 to now, we have supported 2.5 million young Africans with access to business management training on our digital preparatory platform, TEF Connect. We have also disbursed over $100 million to 24,000 young African men and women to start their businesses. These entrepreneurs have gone on to create over 1.5 million jobs across the continent, generate $4.2 billion in revenue, and transform and lift over 2.5 million households out of poverty across Africa. They are helping to create jobs, ensure inclusive economic empowerment, as well as help us eradicate poverty on the African continent. We're very proud of it.
Yeah, I think everybody should be proud of that as well. So let's talk about what you're doing in the immediate terms. We understand that 3,200 entrepreneurs are to be empowered. So is this across the entirety of Africa as it usually is? And which are the specific sectors are you targeting based on the unique challenges we have on the continent?
Since we started our program, we supported 24,000 entrepreneurs with funding, training, mentorship, coaching, and access to networks. We give each entrepreneur on our program a non-returnable fund of $5,000 in seed capital to start their businesses and scale these businesses. This year, we're going to be announcing an additional 3,200 young Africans across all 54 African countries who will be supported by the foundation in 2026. We had over 300,000 applications come from across the continent. So it was very selective and very competitive in shortlisting the final 3,000 we'll be supporting in 2026. So come Sunday, March 22nd, 2026, we'll be announcing the new cohort. We have our consulting firm, Ernst & Young, who have helped us do the shortlisting and the finalization of the final cohort, and we'll be unveiling and revealing these numbers and these ladies and gentlemen across the continent on Sunday in Abuja. So we expect that everyone tunes in on our YouTube channel, on channels TV that day, to watch this live.
Well, so there's a lot of excitement in the air, especially for entrepreneurs. And so for those entrepreneurs, budding ones who are watching now and saying, how can I become a cohort of the Tony Elumelu Foundation initiative? How would you, advise them to go about that? And then more importantly, beyond capital, how do you monitor the work of these entrepreneurs across Africa for, sustainable support and development of their work?
I think you've asked the question. The first part of your question, how do young entrepreneurs apply? Our applications go live every January 1st on our platform, tfconnect.com. It's a robust application that tests your business knowledge, tests the clarity of your idea, and your readiness to start your business. We don't expect you to have an existing business, but if you do have an existing business, should be under 5 years, because we are in the business of democratizing knowledge and ensuring access to economic opportunity. So we're looking at entrepreneurs that would otherwise not get this and help from anything else. 60% of our entrepreneurs every year apply to us with just an idea. So we're in the business of giving hope to those who find no hope otherwise. How do you apply? TFConnect.com. The application goes live January 1st of every year. Go through, you apply, you upload the relevant documents we ask you for, we wait to stand by to mention when we announce. I also hope that people are not discouraged to apply the first time. A lot of our entrepreneurs who've applied the first, second, third, reporting on the fourth try. So we ask that entrepreneurs remain resilient, remain persistent, and understand that entrepreneurship is a long-term journey. It's not linear. There are bumps along the way. Stay at it and stay consistent. At the Tony Elumelu Foundation, we disbursed over $100 million to 24,000 entrepreneurs that were funded, but not just funding them, but giving them critical business management training, prepared them with mentors who have worked who are in the same sectors and are able to give them training, counseling, hand-holding, and practical insights. We also make sure that we take our entrepreneurs through business readiness, teaching, access to additional funding beyond the grants that we give you, and we expose you to networks across the world. We're very diligent in what we call our monitoring and evaluation fund, and that's why we're able to share data in terms of our jobs creation, in terms of the $4.2 billion our entrepreneurs have generated in revenue, in terms of the innovation that they're driving. We ensure that our public is inclusive, not just equal numbers of men and women, but we ensure that it's thriving in disability is also a part of our program. Over 15% of entrepreneurs identify as having a disability. We also ensure that we're not just focusing on entrepreneurs in the urban cities, but we're penetrating rural areas and making access to entrepreneurship broad-based. Finally, we work year on entrepreneurs to make sure that we're tracking their figures, we're tracking their numbers, and we're also addressing additional challenges that we face. Constraints around enabling environment, regulation, through our founder engagement with policymakers and the heads of states to make it a little easier to start businesses and sustain these businesses in their local economies.
All right, we'll take a moment now and see if we can, just fix that network challenge, and then we'll be back to take more questions, particularly on the impact of the Tony Elumelu Foundation's entrepreneurship program with the Chief Executive Officer who has been speaking with us. So join us again, we'll be right back.
In 2016, I was lost. I didn't know where I was heading to, but then I saw this ad about the Tony Elumelu Foundation, and I applied. That was the pivotal moment.
The seed from the Tony Elumelu Foundation is the bedrock all our success is sitting on.
When the Tony Elumelu Foundation found me, I was small.
If the foundation had just given me this money without taking me through the mentoring program, maybe this business would still be an idea.
Africa is a land of opportunities. There's no better time to be and become an entrepreneur in Africa. Government is to set the right environment, but the private sector must take lead and take charge. Having been an entrepreneur myself, let me help to create more. That is the whole driving force behind the Tony Elumelu Foundation.
Through the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program, I am committing $100 million to support the next generation of African entrepreneurs. The program represents a decade-long commitment to support 10,000 African entrepreneurs and startups. The program is open to entrepreneurs from all 54 African countries. Over the next 10 years, our goal is to generate 1 million jobs through these 10,000 businesses and to help contribute at least $10 billion to revenues across Africa through these businesses.
What we wanted to do was to democratize luck. We're not targeting any sector. We just want people who believe in themselves, who have ideas that can develop the continent.
Welcome back. And Mrs. Soma, Chris Asoluka is still with us from the Tony Elumelu Foundation, as the foundation announces the cohort of 3,200 for its next entrepreneurship program. And she's been bringing us up to speed with how to enlist and, of course, the potential for development in the African entrepreneurship space. Now, let's get to another part of impact of the Tony Elumelu Foundation's entrepreneurship program. Talk to us about some of the trends that you have seen from the interest and the work of these entrepreneurs, that have the potential to accelerate Africa's development. What are the leading interests in business development, as expressed by African youth? Is it tech? Is it fashion? What are those leading business interests?
I think that's such a great question. Over the nearly 300,000 applications we received this year, the majority, 30%, were in agriculture/agribusiness. So entrepreneurs are trying to innovate in agriculture, revolutionize agriculture to enable Africa to achieve food security. Another very big sector was AI. A lot of entrepreneurs are now integrating artificial intelligence in their businesses and starting new technology businesses that are helping us to catch up with AI on the continent. Another big category was our green economy. So green economy consists of waste, recycling, clean agriculture, clean manufacturing. A lot of entrepreneurs see themselves as responsible for helping to increase the climate resilience of our continent. And then finally, sectors like fashion, education, healthcare, retail are also always in our program.
So let's speak to how you plan to really democratize luck, because it's a major part of this conversation. There are those who may hear about initiatives like this and think, well, it's for people who know people, right? I probably wouldn't get it. So just don't bother applying for it. So what really is the plan and the assurance that this will be inclusive? We talk about the fact that this is Women's Month, right? So what plan do you have? Reserved seats for women in that sense, and also the assurance that this will also reach the underserved, people who naturally are in far-flung areas and wouldn't get this opportunity on a normal day?
I think on Sunday, the world will be shocked at the numbers are going to be affected. And in terms of the gender balance, I think the world is in for a good surprise on Sunday. In terms of reaching entrepreneurs in rural areas, over 30% of entrepreneurs identify as rural based. We're making sure that we're penetrating and integrating, and we're reducing any inequality in terms of access to opportunities.
So speak to us then, if you've given us the assurance, but there's also the journey which these entrepreneurs have to embark on. And these entrepreneurs face, let me just use the term shiggy. And you know this too well, because you understand the environment, you understand the business environment, the economic factors, the uncertainties. Right now, petrol is selling for 1,200 plus. So you imagine as an entrepreneur, you have to literally not just plan business-wise, you have to pray as well and fast and go spiritual just so your business can survive. So how much work do you do to ensure that they're protected against these shocks as well?
No, I think it's fantastic what you're asking. We understand the realities of doing business on the African continent. And so that's why the support that we give is comprehensive and holistic in nature. We not only give funding, we give business management training, we give mentorship, we give coaching, we give access to networks, and we make sure we help to support your policy enabling environment to be a little more conducive. We know that entrepreneurs, face a lot of struggles in the road to becoming an entrepreneur. And so that's why our application is entirely free of charge. All we ask is that you log on to tefconnect.com and apply for the program. It's transparent, it's fair, it's equitable, and our third-party consultants, Ernst & Young, ensure that the review process is thorough. The review process is free from bias, and we give every African entrepreneur, no matter where they are, across all 54 African countries, the chance to apply. Like I said earlier, 60% of our entrepreneurs apply to our program with just an idea, and they make it. We don't ask that you already have an existing business. We don't ask that you already start making profit. We don't ask that you already have identified customers or a target customer that's already paying for your good or service. We ask that you just submit to us clear business ideas that demonstrate you have done your research and you have the passion and you have what it takes, the courage, the resilience, to start a business in Africa and see it to success. So we don't expect what a bank or VC or private equity to ask of you. We just expect that you sit down and you do your research and you submit an application that's worthy of the talent and creativity and capacity that we know our young Africans are so tremendously blessed. So again,
yes.
If you apply the first time and you don't get it, apply again, the chances will definitely be better.
So let's talk about how much they're exposed to. The last time I remember, I think it used to be between $3,000 to $5,000. Is it what they're exposed to? And are they paid in tranche, or they are paid just one-off and that's it? And then talk to us the critical element again, because I know that the Tony Elumelu Foundation, through its founder, Mr. Tony Elumelu, has been advancing this cause. So maybe global partners. Talk to us about those global partnerships and what it means for this foundation. 2 questions in one.
No, great. So starting with the first question, what exactly does a winning application look like? So we expect that you've done some market research. You've identified a ready need of your potential target customer base. So we also expect that you've done some feasibility. Is that idea feasible? Is that idea scalable? How are you combining innovation with serving your target market? We also ask that you've also thought about how your business contributes to the Sustainable Development Goals. We know that the SDG's target year is 2030, and we know that our continent is lagging behind. How does your business contribute to the SDG and achieving that on the continent? And then finally, we ask that you demonstrate to us your founder content, your capability in terms of leadership. What roles have you had, either in school, your religious setting, in your volunteer network, in giving back to society? How have you demonstrated some leadership? We invest in the business, but even more importantly, we invest in the individual. So you demonstrate to us that you have what it takes to run a business to succeed on the African continent. None of this requires that you already start making profit or revenue, or you even register the business. It just means that you've taken the time out to think critically around your business idea and applying to this. And then to your second part of the question about our partnerships, we now have partnerships with nearly all the major development agencies around the world, because they've identified the work that we do at the Tony Elumelu Foundation as the single most transformative model to transform our continent in a lifetime. They see our model of centering entrepreneurs, our model of Afro-capitalism, which is emphasizing the private sector in Africa to play a leading role in development. And they've come to us and told us, we like the work you're doing. We want to work with you to scale additional numbers beyond what you're doing on your own. And so we have partnerships with the EU, with the German Development Agency, DEG, with the United Nations Development Program, UNICEF, with the Red Cross, with the African Development Bank, and on and on. Because these partners have seen the work we do and have come and approached us to scale so they can reach positive benefits more young Africans.
I don't know whether I missed it or you mentioned it in passing. I talked about how much they're exposed to when they win, whatever term is used.
Yeah, so the grant we give them at the first instance is $5,000. But once you're a TEF entrepreneur and you're in our alumni network, you have the capacity to receive additional grants. So with our partnership with the EU, an element of that partnership was to give some alumni, 100 alumni who worked with us, who've gone through our program, women alumni. We gave them an additional grant of 50,000 euros with this partnership with the EU. Because we understand that the $5,000 helps improve your concept, helps you go to market, helps you develop a prototype, but you will need additional funding to scale. And so some of these partnerships are targeted towards our alumni, support them to get to the next level.
Wow, that's an amazing opportunity, and we're hoping that many more would take advantage of it, particularly if they have a clear direction about their business concepts. But Jeffrey asked a question earlier on, and I'd like to double down on it, which is how to scale up this incredible program of the Tony Elumelu Foundation, tying it to what their challenges are, because they're not just in Nigeria, they're spread across Africa, and we know about trade restrictions amid, the big concern about, African integration. With the presence of the Tony Elumelu Foundation affiliates spread across Africa, how is that helping, to give the cohorts a unique opportunity, to network around, navigating around those trade restrictions across the African continent?
I think this is a fantastic question, because the policy environment for any entrepreneur is critical. No matter how much we fund or coach or mentor or train an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs don't exist in silence. They're affected by the macroeconomic factors that they're exposed to. So one of the critical pillars of the foundation is advocacy. So we do a lot of engagement with policymakers, using our insights, our data, our networks, to let policymakers know these are the constraints and challenges affecting young African entrepreneurs in your economy. And these are the policies you should look at and consider to encourage entrepreneurs to enter into business and scale. So for instance, power remains a critical issue and challenge across the entire continent. Many of our entrepreneurs report that they spend 70% of all revenue on alternative power supply. So we know that that's not sustainable. So a critical pillar of the work we do is engaging the different policymakers and across the continent. Let them know our advice and our counsel based on our research and our data on how entrepreneurs need better regulation, better infrastructure, better taxation policies to thrive. So we're keen to continue to collaborate and work with government in this advisory capacity, using the data and insights from our Tony Elumelu across Office for Africa.
All right, fantastic. So can I apply? That was just a joke. But we're all businessmen, by the way. Somachi Chris Asoluka is the Chief Executive Officer of the Tony Elumelu Foundation, TEF. Thank you so much for the work you do, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I hope you have a lovely day.
You too. Happy holidays.